Wow, it's hard to believe we're down now to the final 2 weeks of the NFL season. I just can't believe it's going by so fast. It feels like yesterday we were just watching Chiefs at Patriots for the kickoff game. But anyways, here is my picks for Week 16 of the 2017 NFL season. Last week I went 11-5, not bad, a lot better than my boy Matthew. We say he went like 9-7 or something like that. Anyways, here is the playoff standings with just the final 2 weeks remaining. In the AFC, it's the Patriots and Steelers with the byes, with the Bills going to the Jaguars and the Titans going to the Chiefs. And in the NFC, it's the Eagles and Vikings with the byes, with the Falcons going to the Rams and the Panthers going to the Saints. There's a whole bunch of playoff elimination and clinching scenarios this week. In fact, there are scenarios that all 6 of the NFC side part of the playoffs can be wrapped up. So hopefully I'm going to try and get to them in this video too. So here we go with my picks. So we get started with tomorrow's games. The second to last Thursday night game, which of course is on Saturday, as it's the Colts going to the Ravens for the first time since 2011, as the Ravens are trying to get their first winning season since 2014 and still trying to keep up with the playoff spot. I was thinking that the Ravens could be possibly eliminated if they lose and the Bills somehow win, because the Bills have the tiebreaker over the Ravens if they win out. But even with I found out too, the Chargers still have a shot, so the Ravens aren't eliminated yet. So the Ravens have a not that much, a last bunch of times they played the Colts. Of course, when I was with Peyton, the Colts actually had a good record against the Ravens when they go to Baltimore. But, of course, they haven't won here. won Baltimore since 2009 or something like that. It's been a long time, of course, since it's been there. But, of course, the Colts suck. And the Ravens' defense, it's one of the top 5, probably best in the league. And the Ravens overall played much better these last bunch of weeks than they were, like, early and middle part of the year. So I think the Ravens should easily get this win. After that, we get to our Sunday night game, which is on Saturday, as it's the Vikings going to the Packers. And if the Vikings win and the Panthers lose, the Vikings will clinch first-round bye for the first time since 2009. And, of course, the Packers, after their loss against the Panthers last week, are eliminated for the playoffs, which is nice to finally no longer have to see them in the playoffs from their year after they've been there since 2009 every year. And, of course, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers absolutely collapsed against the Panthers last week, even though he almost did lead a comeback, too, which is the funny thing. But, of course, they decided to put him on IR for the rest of the year. And, of course, the Vikings got that hard-fought victory against hard-fought. They blew out the Bengals, I meant to say. Throughout the year when Rodgers, I thought, was going to come back, I pretty much thought the Packers would easily get this victory. But now that they going to probably stick with Brett Hundley again, I think the Vikings will probably get this one. But don't be surprised if the Packers somehow get, because the Packers, when they had Brett Hundley, they were all over the place. They were either terrible or they somehow played just as good like they had with Rodgers. Then we get to our 1 p.m. games, starting off with the Buccaneers going to the Panthers. And if the Panthers win, they will clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2015, as they got that very needed victory against the Packers right there. That defense did a really good job against him in his return. And the Buccaneers, they had such a hard-fought game against the Falcons, but they just couldn't get it by just a close second missed field goal in the end. And I think the Panthers are going to get this. I mean, you can't really underestimate the Buccaneers when they go to Charlotte either, because they have a pretty solid history against them. So don't be surprised if the Buccaneers somehow get it, but I think the Panthers are going to easily get this one. And it's the Browns going to the Bears for the first time since 2009, as the Browns are trying to avoid 0-15 for the first time ever. As, they played hard at the first part against the Ravens, but then they fucking collapsed and blew it 27-10, as of now 0-14 for the second year in a row, which is the first time in NFL history anyone's done that. And the Bears, they got spanked by the Lions pretty good, too. Now the Bears are most certainly a better team than the Browns, and they have they're at home, which they have a huge home field advantage this year, but you can't underestimate the Browns. Remember, just like last year when the Browns were 0-14, the Chargers underestimated them, and the Browns pulled it off. So, Bears, don't underestimate the Browns. You got to take them seriously, and if you don't, you'll end up being like the Chargers were last year and give the Browns their first win. But I still think the Bears will get this one, but I will not be surprised if the Browns somehow get it, because just like I've said throughout the season, when they get to like 0-7, then like 0-10, then they get to like 0-12, 0-13, 0-14. Those are those teams that usually around this week would get their first win. So don't be surprised if the Browns somehow get it, but man, they are in definitely terrible shape to possibly not be able to avoid the 0-8 Lions and going 0-16. Speaking of Lions, their next game is the Lions going to the Bengals for the first time since 2009, as the Lions are trying to get their win season for a second year in a row, which would be the first time since 1999-2000 that the Lions had that. And the Bengals, they got destroyed by the Vikings last week, second straight losing season and missing out on the playoffs. And there was reports last week that Marvin Lewis and the Bengals have mutually agreed to part ways at the end of the season, and maybe he would come stay as a general manager. Now, he has denied that last I checked, so I don't know what to say. But, I mean, they have a second losing season. They're out of the playoffs. He should be fired at the end of the year, and he honestly should go somewhere else because he still has a good resume as a coach. And, of course, the Lions got that needed victory against the Bears. And if the Lions lose or the Falcons win, they are eliminated from the playoffs. So they got to win out in hopes the Saints take care of the Falcons and the Falcons lose the final game. They have any shot at making the playoffs. This one was kind of tough to pick throughout the entire year. I don't really trust the Lions. I don't trust the Bengals either. And the Lions definitely don't have a good history against the Bengals, especially when they go to them. But seeing how the Bengals are struggling this year and they're inconsistent, I'm going to pick the Lions for this one. But who knows, maybe the Bengals will actually play one of those good games this year and get the victory. And then it's the Dolphins going to the Chiefs for the first time since 2011, as the Chiefs trying to get their first win season for the fifth year in a row or something like that. And the Dolphins are trying to avoid their first losing season since 2015. And there is an easy thing there is a playoff scenario for both of them. If the Dolphins lose, or the Ravens, Bills, or Titans, at least two of them win, the Dolphins will be eliminated. And if the Chiefs win, they will clinch the AFC a playoff spot and the AFC West for the first time since 2016 for both of them. Well, the last time the Dolphins visited the Chiefs, oh my god, remember they were 0-7, Chiefs were 4-3, just won 4 in a row, and the Dolphins went there and absolutely destroyed them to get their first win. So the Chiefs, you cannot underestimate them. Now the Chiefs are playing significantly better than they were the last bunch of weeks when they had that huge losing streak. So I think the Chiefs will get this victory, but just like the Dolphins either, not only did they destroy you last time you played them, but you can't underestimate them either. They've been all over the place too in terms of just kind of like the Bengals. They have very good days and then they have those really terrible days. So you gotta watch out for them. And then it's the Bills going to the Patriots. And if the Patriots win and the Jaguars lose, the Patriots will clinch first round bye for the first time since 2016. As the Bills are trying to get their first win season since 2014 and stay in the playoff hunt. It's all in their favor. It's going to be very difficult for them, but if they win out, they can clinch a playoff spot because they would have the tiebreaker over the Ravens, and the Titans would not be able to take them over the other spot either. And, of course, the Patriots destroyed the Bills last week. Now the Bills, believe it or not, since 2012, actually have an okay record against the Patriots. As a matter of fact, since 2014, they actually have a winning record, but don't forget, the first one, 2014, was because the Patriots had home field advantage already, so they rest their starters. And last year's because Brady wasn't playing. That was his last game during the suspension. So, you know that other times, the Patriots destroy the Bills. And just like what happened in Buffalo, it's going to be a case here. Patriots will easily beat the Bills. And it's the big NFC South showdown as the Falcons go to the Saints. If the Falcons win, they pretty much would clinch the playoff spot for a second year in a row. And if the Saints win and the Panthers lose, the Saints will clinch a playoff spot clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2013 and clinch the NFC South for the first time since 2011. But if they win and the Panthers win, they still most likely would clinch a playoff. They would clinch a playoff spot, but they need the Panthers to lose too in order to clinch the NFC South. And of course, also if the Falcons lose, actually no, never mind, they would still be in the playoff hunt even if they lose. As the Falcons, I mean, they're still kind of difficult to trust, but I mean, after that, I think they were 4-4, they've gone 5-1 since, so they're right there, and they're just a game away, and they did beat the Saints hard, on defensive struggle last time around, And of course, the Saints, the Falcons, did beat the Saints last year, although that was when the Saints had no defense as such. So this one's kind of difficult to predict, as both teams going back and forth in this game. However, I would say, just like I said early in the year, when I did the Saints and Falcons game on Thursday night weeks ago, like I said, Saints, when they had their still great offense and their strong defense, which they have right now, the Falcons, during that stretch from like 2009 to 2013 when the Saints were like this, the Saints were, I believe, 4-1 when they hosted the Falcons, so they have a really good record, I believe, when they host them. So I think the Saints will get this one, but don't be surprised if the Falcons somehow pull it off. And it's the Chargers going to the Jets for the first time since 2011, as the Chargers are still trying to fight for a playoff spot. They still have a shot to get it, even with a wild card round. So they gotta try to win this one, because if they lose, and the Ravens, Bills, or Chargers, as at least two of them win, especially the Bills. The Bills, because the Bills, because they'll have the tiebreaker over them. They will be eliminated, and of course the Jets are already eliminated. Oh my God, Chargers! What happened to you on Thursday night, for crying out loud? You were playing good till like the second half happened, and then fucking Rivers went through 3 picks, for crying out loud. It was terrible, and he had when there were like 2 extra fumbles too in the game. Oh my God, the second half the Chargers just collapsed. And the Jets, I don't remember who they were playing against that week, damn it. But of course I know they lost too. So it really is, you can't really predict who would probably win, but I think it would easily still be the Chargers this one. But something tells me that they'll go probably blow it too, just like they did against the Chiefs last week. But I still pick the Chargers. And it's the Rams going to the Titans for the first time since 2009, as the Titans are trying to get their first win season for the second year in a row. And that would be the first time since 2007, 2008 the Titans would get that second year in a row. And the Titans, if they win and the Chargers, Ravens, and Bills lose, the Titans very likely would get their first playoff spot since 2008 and end the 5th longest playoff drought, I think, in the league at the moment, too. This is a great year for ending playoff droughts, if you think about it. That's awesome and such. And also, too, if the Rams win or the Seahawks lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2004 and clinch the NFC West for the first time since 2003, which would also end the 3rd longest playoff drought in the league. So this would be really nice for both these two long droughts to end too. This has been a good year for ending them droughts. Now, of course, the Titans have not lost to the Rams, believe it or not, since that Super Bowl loss back in 1999. In fact, oh my God, the Rams haven't beaten the Titans in God knows how long, because they lost in the regular season too. I don't even know when the last time the Rams beat the Titans. But of course, the Titans are also so terrible this year. They're overrated pretty much. I just don't really know what to say about them. And of course, the Rams, after they destroyed the Seahawks last week, and the Titans blew it against the 49ers last week, I think I'm got to take an upset pick and pick the Rams for this one, but I also won't be surprised if the Titans somehow get it too. And then it's the Broncos going to the Redskins for the first time since 2009, as the Redskins try to avoid their first losing season since 2014. And of course, the Broncos, wow, all of a sudden, now they've won 2 in a row, and they've looked really good these last 2 weeks. That offense isn't making so many mistakes, and that defense is getting a lot of pressure. And the Redskins, they barely pulled off against the Cardinals in that one too. Oh boy, these two teams are really unpredictable whatsoever. I mean, I won't be surprised if the Broncos get it, but something tells me they're just gonna not get this one. So I'm gonna pick the Redskins for this one, but I just won't be surprised if the Broncos somehow get it too. And then we get to our 4 p.m. games. Start off with the Jaguars going to the 49ers for the first time since 2009. As the Jaguars, if they win or the Titans lose, they will clinch the AFC West South for the first time ever. They've never won the AFC South, and they'll be their first division title since when they won the AFC Central back in their 14-2 year in 1999. That's how long it's been since they had a division win. So, wow, they destroyed the Texans last week to get their first playoff spot in a decade. And the 49ers, wow, they've won 3 in a row now. Even though Garoppolo hasn't been playing really that awesome, I think it's obvious he's setting himself up as to possibly be the future starter. a future franchise quarterback. So gotta keep an eye. You can't underestimate the 49ers now. They've been playing really hot, so you gotta watch out, Jaguars. You can't underestimate the 49ers in this one. But of course, I think the Jaguars just might squeak it out of this one, but I won't be surprised either if the 49ers win. And also, Jaguars, if you win and the Steelers lose, you will take the lead in the AFC second seed in the playoffs, so you could possibly be in contention for first round bye, and you still have the shot to get home field advantage. That is quite incredible for a team that went 3-13 last year and has won almost as many games this year as it did the last 3 years combined. And then it's the Giants going to the Cardinals for the first time since 2011, as the Cardinals trying to avoid a second straight losing season. As the Giants, wow, they've had their best offensive performance not only this year, but probably the best probably since 2015, because I know the 2015 offense was pretty good. That last year's offense was terrible. They put up one hell of an effort. Eli threw like 4 touchdowns and something like that, and they still couldn't beat the Eagles. They fought really, really hard in that game. Probably the first time this season they actually played hard and fought hard to try and win. And the Cardinals, they blew it against the Redskins right here. Now, of course, historically, the Giants have destroyed the Cardinals when they visit them. I don't even know the last time the Giants lost to the Cardinals when they visit them. And I think they've never lost to University of Phoenix Stadium either. So the odds are, what you would say, probably in the Giants' favor. However, with the home field advantage, and even though that Giants performance last week was incredible, I think that was more like just a fluke and probably won't be repeated again. I think the Cardinals will get this one. And then we get to the big NFC showdown, which unfortunately for these teams, by the time they play, they probably would both be eliminated. So it's a big important game, but it might have no significance by the time they play, possibly, as the Seahawks go to the Cowboys for the first time since 2015. As Seahawks trying to get their first win season, their 6th straight winning season, I believe. Cowboys are trying to get their 2nd win season. And whoever loses this game is going to be eliminated. And believe it or not, even if, like I said, even if whoever wins this game, they still might be eliminated from the playoffs because the Falcons could win and they have the tiebreaker over both of them. So, like I said, if the Falcons win, these two would very likely be eliminated and this game will have no relevance whatsoever. As, oh boy, the Seahawks, what the fuck? You got destroyed by the Rams at home, for God's sake. 42-7 for crying out loud. What the hell? You let the front four for the Seahawks aren't necessarily their biggest strength. It's the LOB. But you let Todd Gurley get 150 plus yards on you and 3 touchdowns? Oh boy, and the Cowboys now won 3 in a row. I think that means they went 3-3 without Zeke, and of course now they're gonna get Zeke back. And oh my God, if you let Todd Gurley run for over 150 yards on you, how the hell are you gonna stop Zeke? I think it's pretty obvious. It's going to be the Cowboys win this one and eliminating the Seahawks for the playoffs for the first time since 2011. And we get to our 2 games on Monday. First is our final Thursday night game of the year as the Steelers go to the Texans for the first time since 2011. And if the Steelers win and the Jaguars lose, the Steelers will clinch first round bye for the first time since 2010. As they, oh man, that game against the Patriots last week. Now, I think that was more of the Steelers' fault. They should have, because I remember, I actually saw that game, of course, when it happened. After that failed pass didn't happen, and then they went for that sideline throw. I said, unlike what Romo said, I did not agree with it. They should have just spiked it and gone for the field goal and tried their best in overtime. And of course, they didn't do that. They went for the fake spike, and of course, Big Ben threw the pick. So that was a tough, disappointing loss that they blew. Now, of course, the Steelers, when they go to the Texans, although the Steelers are 1-1, I believe, when they go to the Texans, but of course, the Texans, pretty defensive effort, spanked the Steelers pretty hard last time they played them. So the Steelers, and of course, like also historically, throughout the last bunch of years, this is the kind of game that the Steelers would lose against a team that they should never lose to. So you can't underestimate the Texans. Steelers. If you want to win, you got to take them seriously because they're going to fight hard, even though they're limping along their terrible season so far. So normally throughout the season, I pick the Texans no matter what. because I knew that the Steelers were going to have their win streak eventually collapse, and I thought they were going to continue it against the Patriots. But now that the streak is finally over, I think the Steelers might just right the ship and actually get the victory in this one. And we finished it off with our final Monday night game of the year as the Raiders go to the Eagles for the first time since 2005, as the Raiders try to avoid their first losing season since 2015. And if the Eagles win or the Vikings lose, well, actually, yeah, if the Eagles win and the Vikings lose, too, because even if the Vikings lose, they still might be able to clinch first home field advantage. But if the Eagles win, they will clinch home field advantage for the first time since 2004. And, of course, if the Raiders lose, they are eliminated from the playoffs. So, wow. Eagles, man, the first game with, what was his name? Oh, yeah, Nick Foles as his starter once again after all these years. He played pretty good, and he was the main savior for their Eagles against the Giants last week because their defense completely collapsed out of nowhere, allowing 500 yards against them. What the hell? And the Raiders, they just couldn't beat the Cowboys, even though they had them beat, and they played much better than the Cowboys for crying out loud. But, of course, the Eagles beating the Giants, that is kind of a concern, too, the way it happened. They barely beat them, and the Giants got 500 yards of offense against them, even though they're terrible. So the Eagles, you gotta be a little bit concerned about that going to the playoffs without Carson Wentz. Because the Raiders certainly have an offense that can get a whole bunch of yards on you, unlike the Giants. So it can go either way, possibly. But I think overall, I still trust the Eagles more than the Raiders, especially at home. So I think the Eagles will get this one, but I won't be surprised if the Raiders somehow get the upset. So those are my picks for Week 16. I can't wait for Colts at Ravens and Vikings at Packers tomorrow, and along with the rest of the games, as we're looking forward to seeing more playoff elimination clinching scenarios. And my Week 17 picks will be on the Saturday before the regular season ends, so December 30th, I believe. So tune in on that Saturday for my Week 17 picks. And then the day after the regular season ends, I'll do my playoff predictions for the playoffs. So be on the lookout for that too.